The bridge had already grown old before many kingdoms were born. Long before maps carried proper borders, long before castles crowned the hills, long before merchants filled the roads with wagons and horses, the first stones of the ancient bridge were carefully placed across a wide, slow-moving river. No one alive remembered the hands that built it. Even the oldest stories disagreed. Some claimed Roman engineers had designed it. Others believed an even older people had first discovered the perfect crossing and that later generations had simply rebuilt it. Whatever the truth, the bridge remained, patient, silent, unmoving, for nearly 2,000 years. The river beneath it never stopped flowing. Spring brought clear water filled with melting snow from distant mountains. Summer carried fishing boats drifting lazily beneath the broad stone arches. Autumn covered the riverbanks with golden leaves that floated quietly downstream. Winter wrapped everything in pale frost, while thin morning mist often hid the bridge until sunrise. The river changed every season. The bridge never did. Every traveler eventually reached it. Merchants carrying barrels of olive oil, pilgrims searching for distant monasteries, shepherds leading flocks toward greener hills, messengers riding through the night, children holding tightly to their parents' hands, kings, soldiers, blacksmiths, monks. None remained forever, yet every one of them crossed the same ancient stones. At sunrise, the bridge always looked peaceful. Soft golden light slowly touched the eastern arch before spreading across the worn stone surface. Tiny birds gathered along the weathered railing. Swallows nested beneath the arches every spring. Their cheerful songs echoed gently across the quiet water. The first footsteps of the morning usually belonged to the village baker. Every day before dawn, he crossed the bridge carrying baskets filled with warm bread for the market on the opposite bank. His footsteps had become so familiar that the swallows barely noticed him anymore. The nearby village was wonderfully ordinary. Small stone cottages stood close together along narrow streets. Flower boxes rested beneath every window. Smoke rose lazily from chimneys as families prepared simple breakfasts. The village had no grand palace, no towering cathedral, no famous monument. Only the bridge. Visitors often arrived expecting something magnificent. Instead, they found quiet mornings, friendly conversations, fresh bread, and an old bridge that never asked for attention. At the western end of the bridge stood a tiny stone shelter with a wooden bench inside. Travelers often rested there before continuing their journey. The shelter offered shade during summer, protection from rain in autumn, warmth from the morning sun during winter. Someone had carved a simple sentence into one of the wooden beams many generations earlier. No journey becomes poorer because of a little rest. No one knew who had written it. No one wished to remove it. One calm spring morning, a young traveler arrived carrying little more than a leather satchel and a walking staff polished smooth by many miles. He stopped before stepping onto the bridge, not because he was tired, but because something about the ancient structure invited quiet reflection. The river flowed peacefully beneath the arches. Swallows circled high above. A cool breeze carried the scent of wildflowers growing along the riverbank. The young traveler smiled. Some places, without speaking a single word, made people slow their pace. He crossed the bridge carefully. Each stone beneath his boots had been worn smooth by countless generations. He wondered how many millions of footsteps had touched the same path. Roman sandals, medieval boots, bare feet, horse hooves, wooden carts. Perhaps every century had left behind its own quiet memory, yet the bridge carried them all without complaint.
Halfway across, the traveler stopped beside the old stone railing. He looked down at the slow-moving river below. Tiny fish shimmered beneath the clear water. White clouds drifted lazily across the sky above, their reflections moving gently across the river's surface. For a few peaceful moments, nothing happened, and somehow it felt as though nothing needed to. Far ahead, at the opposite end of the bridge, an elderly man sat quietly upon the wooden bench beneath the stone shelter. Beside him rested a small leather-bound notebook, a steaming cup of herbal tea, and a walking stick carved with symbols so old they looked almost as ancient as the bridge itself.
The old man picked up a small iron lantern from beside the chapel door. Although warm afternoon sunlight still filled the valley, the staircase beneath the chapel welcomed only a soft, gentle glow. He lit the lantern carefully, its quiet flame reflected against the smooth limestone walls. "These steps are older than the chapel itself," he said. "They've been here for longer than anyone remembers." The traveler followed slowly. Each stone step had been worn gently in the middle by centuries of careful feet. There was no dust, no feeling of abandonment, only the peaceful silence of a place that had always been respected. The air below was pleasantly cool, not cold, just enough to carry the faint scent of old stone, cedar wood, and dried herbs. The staircase curved gently before opening into a round underground chamber. The traveler stopped in quiet amazement. The room was larger than he had imagined. Stone shelves lined the walls from floor to ceiling. Wooden cabinets stood neatly between them. Everything had been arranged with remarkable care. At the center of the chamber rested a large oak table. Its surface held several rolled parchment maps tied with faded blue ribbons. Beside them lay brass measuring tools, a small compass, goose feather quills, and tiny glass bottles filled with dark brown ink. Nothing looked forgotten. Instead, everything appeared patiently waiting. The old man carefully untied one of the oldest scrolls. The parchment crackled softly as it unfolded. Its edges had darkened with age, yet the ink remained surprisingly clear. The traveler leaned closer. There were no borders, no kingdoms, no castles, only rivers, hills, forests, and the ancient bridge standing proudly across the valley. "The map is beautiful," he whispered. The old man nodded. "It was drawn before kings argued about who owned this land. Back then, the river belonged to everyone." The traveler studied the careful drawings. Tiny villages appeared beside streams. Footpaths wound gently through forests. Old orchards had been marked with little green circles. Even the smallest wells had been carefully recorded. Whoever created the map paid attention to every peaceful detail. "There are no battlefields," the traveler observed. "No," the old man smiled. "The mapmaker believed people needed directions to homes, not to wars." Along one wall stood a tall wooden cabinet with dozens of narrow drawers. Each carried a tiny handwritten label: bridges, mills, gardens, footpaths, rivers. The old man opened one marked bridges. Inside rested dozens of carefully folded sketches. Some showed small stone crossings, others elegant wooden bridges spanning gentle streams. Every drawing included careful notes about the people who built them. "Why keep all these?" the traveler asked. "Because every bridge has a story," the old man replied, "and stories disappear if no one remembers them." A small round window high above allowed a single beam of sunlight to enter the chamber. Dust floated peacefully within the golden light. The traveler watched tiny particles drifting slowly through the air.
It reminded him of snow falling in complete silence. The old man noticed him smiling. My grandfather used to call that the sunlight reading the room. At the far end of the chamber stood one final cabinet. Unlike the others, its door was carved with the image of the ancient bridge. The wood had become smooth after generations of careful hands. The old man rested his fingers gently upon the handle. This contains the oldest records. He opened it slowly. Inside rested a single leather tube. No decoration, no lock, only a faded ribbon tied neatly around it. He lifted it with both hands, almost reverently. The traveler could sense its importance before seeing what was inside. The old man carefully unrolled the parchment upon the oak table. This map was different. Its lines were finer, its colors softer. Near the center, where the bridge crossed the river, someone had painted a tiny figure placing the very first foundation stone into the flowing water. There was no crown upon the builder's head, no grand clothing, only an ordinary craftsman kneeling beside the river. Below the painting, a single sentence had been written in beautifully faded ink. Build well enough that strangers may cross safely long after your own footsteps are forgotten. The traveler remained silent. The words lingered in the quiet chamber. Above them, the ancient bridge continued carrying travelers across the river, just as it had for nearly 2,000 years.
The old man adjusted his weathered cloak before taking his first slow step. The traveler walked beside him. Neither of them hurried. There was something about the bridge that naturally slowed every pace. The stones beneath their feet had carried countless lives. There seemed little reason to rush across them now. The morning air remained cool. Mist still lingered above the river, though the rising sun had begun to lift it gently into the hills. Swallows circled overhead. Their tiny wings caught the golden light before disappearing beneath the broad arches once again. The bridge is longer than most people realize, the old man said, not because of its distance, but because of its memories. The traveler looked toward him. What do you mean? The old man smiled. Most people think they're crossing a river. I've always believed they're crossing time. They stopped beside the first great arch. It rose gracefully above the flowing water, its enormous stones fitted together so perfectly that not even a blade of grass could grow between them. The traveler gently rested his hand upon the cool limestone. It felt smooth. Centuries of rain, wind, snow, and countless hands had slowly polished its surface. It's remarkable. The old man nodded. No mortar, no iron, only carefully shaped stone. The builders trusted weight and patience. Below them, the river whispered against the bridge's foundations. Small trout drifted lazily through the clear water. Along the riverbank, tall reeds swayed softly in the breeze. A white heron stood perfectly still near the shallows. Its reflection shimmered gently beneath it. The traveler watched for a while. Does the heron come often? Nearly every morning, the old man replied. It has better patience than most people. They continued walking. Halfway across the bridge stood a small stone alcove built into the railing. Many travelers passed without noticing it. Inside rested a single wooden bench, simple, unadorned. Above it, someone had carved another sentence many centuries ago. The longest journeys are made one peaceful step at a time. The letters had softened with age. Lichen filled their edges, yet every word remained easy to read. The traveler smiled. I like that. So do I, the old man answered. I've probably read it 10,000 times, and somehow it always feels new.
As they rested upon the bench, church bells echoed faintly across the valley. Not loud, just enough to remind the village that another morning had begun. Smoke drifted upward from cottage chimneys. Farmers guided small carts toward distant fields. A shepherd led his sheep across a meadow beyond the western hill. Life moved quietly, steadily, without ceremony. The traveler noticed tiny marks carved into several stones beside the bench. Circles, lines, simple symbols worn almost smooth with time. Were these made by the builders? The old man leaned closer. No, by travelers. Each mark tells a story. He pointed toward one small circle. A stonemason carved that before leaving another kingdom. Another mark resembled a tiny star. A young girl carved that while waiting for her father to return from the market. A third looked like two crossed branches. No one remembers who made that one. Sometimes, the mystery becomes part of the history. They rose once more. Only a short distance remained before reaching the center of the bridge. There, standing quietly above the deepest part of the river, was a single stone unlike all the others. Slightly larger, slightly darker. Its edges had become perfectly smooth through centuries of weather. The old man placed his walking stick beside it. This is the oldest stone. No one has ever moved it. The traveler knelt beside it. Tiny veins of quartz shimmered beneath the morning sunlight. He gently brushed away a few fallen leaves. It was impossible to imagine how many generations had stepped across this very place. Roman merchants, medieval pilgrims, traveling scholars, kings, children, ordinary people whose names had long since disappeared. Yet somehow, a small part of each journey still seemed to remain here, quietly resting within the ancient heart of the bridge.
The older man looked up as the traveler approached. He did not seem surprised to see a visitor. In fact, he smiled with the quiet familiarity of someone who had greeted strangers for many years. "Good morning," he said. "The bridge has been expecting you." The traveler laughed softly. "I didn't know bridges could expect anyone." The old man gently stirred his cup of herbal tea. "Perhaps they can't, but people often arrive exactly when they need to." The traveler placed his satchel beside the wooden bench. The morning sun had begun to warm the ancient stones. Below, the river continued its slow journey toward distant valleys. For a while, neither of them spoke. There seemed no reason to interrupt such a peaceful morning. The only sounds came from the gentle current, the cheerful swallows beneath the arches, and the distant ringing of the village blacksmith beginning his day's work. After a few quiet moments, the traveler noticed the leather notebook resting beside the old man. Its cover had faded with age. Its corners had become smooth from years of careful use. "You keep a journal?" The old man nodded. "For nearly 40 years, every morning." The traveler smiled. "You must have filled many pages." "I have, but not with great events." He opened the notebook carefully. The handwriting was neat, simple. Every page contained only a few lines. A fisherman crossed before sunrise. The river was perfectly still today. 3 children laughed while chasing swallows. The first autumn leaf landed upon the eastern arch. The traveler turned another page. Heavy snow covered the bridge this morning. An old shepherd rested here with his dog. The moon reflected beautifully beneath the northern arch. Nothing dramatic, nothing extraordinary. Just ordinary moments, beautifully remembered. "You've written about the bridge every day?" The old man smiled. "Not always about the bridge. Sometimes I simply write about whatever the bridge allows me to notice." The traveler looked around. The river, the hills, the village,
The birds. He began to understand. The bridge had never been only a crossing. It was a place where people paused, observed, breathed, remembered. A soft breeze drifted across the river. The swallows swooped gracefully beneath the stone arches. One landed on the weathered railing only a few feet away. It chirped once, then flew toward its little nest tucked safely beneath the bridge. "They return every spring," the old man said. "The same family?" the traveler asked. He chuckled. "I've stopped trying to tell, but every year they somehow find their way home." Across the river, the village slowly awakened. Shopkeepers opened wooden shutters. Children carried baskets toward the morning market. A woman watered flowers growing beneath her cottage windows. The smell of fresh bread drifted gently across the bridge. The traveler closed his eyes for a moment. "It feels peaceful here." The old man nodded. "It always has, even when the world beyond these hills wasn't peaceful." The traveler looked toward him. "What do you mean?" The old man's eyes rested upon the ancient arches. "This bridge has seen armies. It has watched kings ride across in polished armor. It has carried frightened families searching for safer homes. It has survived floods that swept away entire villages." He gently touched the warm stone beside him. "But yet, when the soldiers were gone, when the banners disappeared, when new kingdoms replaced old ones, the river still flowed, the swallows still returned, and every morning the sun still rose over this bridge." The traveler remained silent. The words settled gently in his thoughts. History often remembered great battles, great rulers, great victories. But perhaps places like this remembered something even more important: the quiet mornings in between. The old man closed his notebook. He carefully slipped it back into his satchel. Then he stood, leaning lightly upon his carved walking stick. "I walk the length of the bridge every morning. I've done so for many years." He smiled warmly. "If you'd like, perhaps today, you can walk with me, and I'll show you the oldest stone on the bridge, the one that has remained exactly where it was placed for almost 2,000 years.
The little stone chapel stood quietly beneath the wide branches of the ancient oak. Its walls were built from the same pale limestone as the bridge. Time had softened every corner. Rain had polished every stone, and ivy had patiently climbed across the southern wall until green leaves framed the small arched windows. The traveler paused before the open wooden door. There was no sign inviting visitors inside. None was needed. The peaceful silence seemed invitation enough. The old man stepped across the worn stone threshold. His footsteps echoed gently across the simple floor. Inside, the chapel was wonderfully modest. A few wooden benches, a small stone altar, 3 narrow windows that allowed warm afternoon sunlight to fall in quiet golden beams. Dust drifted lazily through the light. Near the eastern wall, a single beeswax candle burned steadily. Its gentle flame never seemed to flicker. The traveler whispered, "It's beautiful." The old man smiled. It has never tried to be anything else. There were no grand paintings, no shining gold, no towering ceiling, only simplicity. The scent of old wood mixed gently with beeswax and dried lavender. Someone had placed a small clay vase filled with fresh flowers beside the candle. Blue cornflowers, white daisies, a few sprigs of rosemary. The flowers had clearly been gathered that very morning. "They're replaced every day," the old man said.
No one knows exactly who began the tradition, but no morning has passed without fresh flowers. Beside the last wooden bench rested a small oak table. Its cover had darkened with age. The corners were smooth from countless careful hands. The traveler looked toward the old man. "Is this the journal you mentioned?" He nodded gently. "It has been here for generations. Every afternoon, someone writes a single page, only one, no more." The traveler carefully opened the journal. The handwriting changed from page to page. Some entries were elegant, others simple. Some were written by practiced hands, others by children still learning their letters. Yet every page shared one quiet purpose: to remember an ordinary day. One page read, "Today the bridge welcomed a shepherd and 37 sheep." Another simply said, "The river was calm enough to reflect every cloud." Several pages later, a child had written, "Mother let me feed the swallows today." The traveler smiled. No battles, no kings, no famous names, only peaceful moments, small pieces of everyday life, quietly preserved. The old man rested his hand upon the journal. History often remembers the powerful, but these pages, they remember everyone else. The traveler slowly turned another page. A faded entry from many decades earlier caught his attention. "This afternoon, an old bridge saved 2 frightened children during the Great Flood." Nothing more. No dramatic details. Only one simple sentence. The traveler looked up. The flood? The old man nodded slowly. It came without warning. The river rose higher than anyone had ever seen. Cottages were damaged. Fields disappeared beneath the water. But the bridge remained. He gently touched the chapel wall. So did this little place. Outside, the afternoon breeze stirred the leaves of the ancient oak. Sunlight filtered softly through the branches. The sound reached the chapel like a gentle whisper. For several peaceful minutes, neither of them spoke. Silence felt perfectly comfortable here, almost necessary. Then, the chapel door opened quietly. A young girl stepped inside, carrying a tiny basket of fresh lavender. She smiled politely before walking to the clay vase. Without saying a word, she replaced yesterday's flowers with the new ones. The old blossoms were gathered carefully into her basket. The traveler watched with quiet admiration. "She does this every day?" The old man smiled. "Every afternoon after school. Her grandmother did the same, and before that, her great-grandmother." The girl finished arranging the flowers. She gave the little candle a gentle glance. Then she quietly left the chapel, leaving only the fresh scent of lavender behind. The traveler looked once more at the old journal. Thousands of pages, thousands of quiet days, each one reminding future generations that ordinary moments were worth remembering. As he gently closed the leather cover, he noticed a narrow stone staircase tucked behind the chapel. It disappeared beneath the building, as though leading somewhere hidden. The traveler looked toward the old man. "What lies below?" The old man smiled softly. "A place very few travelers ever visit. A room beneath the chapel, where the oldest maps of the valley are still carefully kept. Maps drawn long before any kingdom had ever claimed this land."
The traveler stood quietly beside the old oak table. His eyes remained fixed on the faded sentence written beneath the ancient drawing. Build well enough that strangers may cross safely long after your own footsteps are forgotten. For a long while, neither he nor the old man spoke. Some words needed silence more than explanation. The little underground chamber seemed to understand that. Even the lantern's flame burned without the slightest flicker. Eventually, the old man rolled the precious map back into its leather case. His movements were slow, careful, almost ceremonial. He returned the faded ribbon exactly as it had been before. Then he returned the map to its wooden cabinet. It has rested there for generations. He smiled gently. And I hope it rests there for many more. The traveler nodded. Some things deserve to be protected, the old man replied quietly, especially the things that ask for nothing. Together, they climbed the stone staircase once again. As they reached the chapel, warm afternoon sunlight welcomed them back. The air smelled of wildflowers and fresh grass. The breeze carried the distant laughter of children playing near the village square. After the peaceful silence below ground, the valley somehow felt even more alive. Outside, the bridge stretched across the quiet river exactly as before. Nothing had changed, and yet everything seemed different. The traveler no longer saw only old stones. He saw generations of careful builders, patient craftsmen, quiet caretakers, ordinary people who built, repaired, protected, and cared for the bridge across generations. As the first rays of sunrise illuminate the old stone arches once more, bakers, shepherds, monks, merchants, and children began another ordinary day, while the bridge continued its timeless purpose, connecting people, carrying countless journeys, and standing as a silent symbol of patience, craftsmanship, and enduring history. The narrator now delivers the final calm reflections, slowly guiding the listener toward deep relaxation and peaceful sleep. The old man tipped his hat. "And a peaceful journey to you." The wagon disappeared toward the western hills. The bridge returned to silence. Near the northern railing, a young stonemason knelt beside one of the bridge's outer walls. His tools rested neatly on a folded cloth. A wooden bucket held fresh limestone pieces. He carefully examined a tiny crack between two ancient stones. The traveler stopped. "I thought the bridge never changed." The old man smiled. "It changes a little every year. That's how it remains the same." The stonemason worked patiently. He removed only one loose stone, nothing more. He brushed away tiny fragments of old mortar, measured the replacement twice, then gently lowered the new stone into place. No hammering, no rushing, only quiet craftsmanship. The traveler watched with admiration. How long will that stone remain there? The stonemason smiled without looking up. "If I've done my work properly, long after all three of us are gone." The old man nodded approvingly. His father repaired this bridge, and before him, his grandfather. The traveler looked at the young craftsman. "So the bridge is still being built?" "In a way," the old man answered. "It has never stopped." Later that afternoon, they reached the western riverbank.
A narrow path followed the water beneath rows of tall poplar trees. Their silver-green leaves shimmered softly whenever the breeze passed through them. Sunlight reflected gently upon the slow-moving river. Dragonflies floated above the reeds. A fisherman quietly untangled his line without saying a word. The peaceful rhythm of the valley continued exactly as it always had. The traveler noticed a small wooden sign standing beside the riverside path. The paint had faded slightly with age. It simply read, "Riverside Mill." An arrow pointed downstream. The traveler looked toward the old man. "Is it very far?" The old man smiled warmly. "Only a short walk. The mill has stood beside the river nearly 400 years. The great wheel still turns. The baker still gathers fresh flour each morning, and every evening the miller places a lantern in the window so that anyone crossing the ancient bridge after sunset."
The riverside path curved gently beneath a long row of poplar trees. Their silver-green leaves shimmered softly whenever the afternoon breeze wandered through the valley. The traveler and the old man walked without haste. There was no destination that demanded speed, only another peaceful place waiting to be discovered. To their left, the ancient river continued its slow journey toward distant lands. To their right, wildflowers covered the grassy banks in shades of blue, white, and yellow. Dragonflies hovered above the reeds, their delicate wings sparkling whenever they caught the sunlight. Before long, a new sound joined the quiet afternoon. It was soft, steady, gentle, the rhythmic turning of a great wooden wheel. The traveler smiled. "That must be the mill." The old man nodded. "It has been singing that same song for centuries." Soon, the trees opened into a small clearing. There stood the old Riverside Mill. It was built from pale stone with a steep slate roof that had weathered countless winters. The great water wheel turned slowly beside the river, lifted by the gentle current that had powered it for generations. Every rotation produced a quiet creak, not unpleasant, almost comforting, as though the mill itself were breathing peacefully. A narrow wooden bridge crossed a small stream leading to the mill door. Flower boxes overflowed beneath every window. Bright geraniums, lavender, small white daisies. Someone clearly believed that even a working mill deserved flowers. The traveler admired the little details. "It feels more like a home than a workplace." The old man smiled. "Perhaps that's why people enjoy coming here." The heavy oak door stood open. Warm afternoon light filled the entrance. Inside, the scent of fresh flour mixed with cedar wood and warm grain. Large wooden beams stretched across the ceiling. Enormous gears turned slowly above their heads. Every wheel turned another. Every movement was calm, careful, unhurried. The traveler watched the machinery with fascination. So many parts, and yet it's almost silent. The old man chuckled. The best work often happens quietly. Near one window stood several large cloth sacks filled with freshly ground flour. Each carried a simple handwritten label: morning wheat, spring barley, river oats. The traveler noticed there were no dates, no prices either. The old man laughed quietly. "We've always believed people remember kindness longer than numbers."
Outside, the water wheel continued its peaceful turning. Sunlight reflected from its wet wooden paddles, scattering tiny diamonds of light across the riverbank. A pair of ducks floated lazily past. They barely seemed to notice the great wheel turning beside them. Everything moved together: the river, the wheel, the wind, the valley, each keeping its own gentle rhythm. As the afternoon slowly drifted toward evening, Elias picked up a small brass lantern hanging beside the doorway. He carefully polished the glass until it shone. The traveler remembered what the old man had said. "Is that the lantern you place in the window each night?" Elias nodded. "Every single evening. My father lit it, my grandfather lit it, and tonight I'll light it again." He looked toward the ancient bridge glowing softly in the distance. Not because someone always needs it, but because one day someone might.
The traveler remained beside the ancient stone for a long while. He did not speak. Some places seemed to ask for silence instead of conversation. The old man understood. He leaned comfortably upon his walking stick and allowed the quiet morning to continue without interruption. Below them, the river flowed exactly as it had yesterday, exactly as it had 100 years ago. Perhaps exactly as it had when the very first builders stood here watching its gentle current. A cool breeze drifted across the bridge. It carried the scent of wild thyme growing among the rocks along the riverbank. Somewhere nearby, a skylark began its cheerful morning song. The sound floated high above the valley before slowly disappearing into the bright blue sky. The traveler smiled. "I've heard birds all my life, but somehow they sound different here." The old man nodded. "Perhaps because you're finally listening." They slowly continued toward the highest point of the bridge. From there, the entire valley unfolded before them. Rolling green hills stretched into the distance. Fields of wheat shimmered softly beneath the morning sun. Small orchards rested beside winding country lanes. Beyond them, tiny cottages stood peacefully among flowering gardens. Thin ribbons of smoke rose lazily from their chimneys. Everything seemed wonderfully still. The traveler quietly whispered, "It feels like the whole valley has forgotten how to hurry." The old man smiled. "That's one of its greatest treasures." Near the center of the bridge stood something many travelers overlooked: a small stone marker, no taller than a child's knee. Its surface had been softened by centuries of rain and wind. Only a few faded letters remained visible. The traveler knelt beside it. "What does it say?" The old man gently brushed away some of the moss. "It simply reads, 'Built for those who come after us.'" The traveler looked up. "Nothing more?" "Nothing more," the old man replied. "And yet, I've never known a wiser inscription." For a few moments, neither of them moved. The words settled quietly between them. Built, not for glory, not for kings, not for fame, but for people who had not even been born. Generations who would one day cross safely because someone long ago had cared enough to build well. A family approached from the eastern road. A father guided a small wooden cart. His wife walked beside him, carrying fresh flowers gathered from the hills. Between them skipped a little girl holding a tiny basket. As they reached the bridge, the child suddenly stopped. She looked over the old stone railing. Small fish glimmered beneath the clear water. She laughed with quiet delight. The traveler couldn't help smiling.
The old man watched the family continue toward the village. You see, the bridge isn't remembered because it's old. It's remembered because life never stopped crossing it. The sun climbed a little higher. Its warm light touched every stone. The bridge seemed almost golden now. Tiny lizards rested upon the sunlit walls. Dragonflies hovered above the river. A pair of ducks drifted peacefully beneath the largest arch. Everything belonged. Nothing seemed out of place. The traveler noticed several carefully repaired stones near the western side. They've been replaced. The old man nodded. Only a few. When time weakens one stone, another quietly takes its place. He smiled gently. The bridge teaches an important lesson. What is it? The old man looked once more toward the flowing river. Strength isn't staying exactly the same forever. It's allowing careful hands to preserve what matters most. They reached the western end of the bridge. There, beneath the shade of an enormous oak tree, stood a tiny stone chapel. Its bell tower was modest. Its wooden door remained slightly open. Flowering ivy climbed gently across its old walls. Beside the entrance rested a weathered bench. A single lantern still burned quietly inside, even though the morning sun now filled the valley with light. The traveler looked toward the old man. Does someone live there? The old man smiled. No, but every afternoon, someone opens the door, lights a fresh candle, and leaves a handwritten page from a journal that has been kept for longer than anyone can remember.
Evening arrived so quietly that no one noticed the exact moment the afternoon ended. The sunlight softened. Golden fields slowly turned to shades of amber. Long shadows stretched across the valley, while the river reflected the changing sky like polished glass. The traveler stood beside the mill, watching the great wooden wheel complete another slow turn. Its gentle rhythm had never changed. Morning, afternoon, evening, season after season, year after year. Elias carefully lifted the polished brass lantern. He trimmed the wick with practiced hands before striking a small flint. A warm flame appeared instantly, not bright, not dazzling, just enough to create a welcoming glow behind the clear glass. The traveler watched silently. "You've done that many times." Elias smiled. "I stopped counting after 20 years. My father stopped counting after 50, and his father probably did the same." He gently carried the lantern toward the window overlooking the bridge. Outside, the first cool breeze of evening wandered through the valley. Its warm light reflected across the river. The traveler noticed something remarkable. Even though the sun had not completely disappeared, the lantern already felt comforting, as though it belonged there. The old man nodded. Light doesn't always wait for darkness. Sometimes it simply prepares. They stepped outside once more. The ancient bridge stretched peacefully across the river. Its pale stones now glowed softly beneath the fading sky. Small swallows had returned beneath the arches for the night. Their cheerful songs had become gentle little whispers. Above them, the first bats began their quiet evening flight across the water. The traveler looked toward the bridge. "It feels different now." The old man smiled.
Every hour gives it a new face. A narrow riverside path led them back toward the village. Along the way, tiny lanterns had been placed beside the road, simple iron lanterns hanging from short wooden posts. None stood very close together. Each quietly illuminated the next stretch of path. The traveler admired them. No one could get lost here. The old man chuckled. That was always the idea. As they walked, the gentle ringing of a distant bell drifted through the evening air. Not the chapel bell. This one was softer, lower. The traveler listened carefully. "What is that?" "The ferry bell," the old man replied. "It rings every evening, whether anyone crosses the river or not." "Why?" "So people know someone is still waiting." They reached a small bend where the river widened. There, an old wooden ferry rested quietly against its landing. Its weathered planks had faded silver after centuries beside the water. A single rope tied it gently to a sturdy oak post. Beside the ferry sat an elderly ferryman wearing a thick wool coat despite the mild evening. He lifted his cap with a friendly smile. "Good evening. The valley has been peaceful today." "It has," the old man answered warmly, "and may tomorrow be just the same." The ferryman gently rang the little brass bell hanging beside the dock. Its clear tone floated across the calm river before fading into the hills. No passengers appeared. No horses waited. Still, he smiled with quiet satisfaction. The traveler looked puzzled. "No one came." The ferryman nodded. "Not tonight, but the bell still deserves to be rung." The traveler stood beside the quiet landing. The lantern from the mill shimmered gently in the distance. The ancient bridge rested peacefully beneath the evening sky. The chapel bell had fallen silent. Only the river continued speaking in its calm, timeless voice. He realized something. Every place in the valley seemed to perform its small duty, whether anyone noticed or not. The bridge carried travelers, the mill ground flour, the chapel kept its journal, the lantern welcomed strangers, the ferryman rang his bell, not for praise, simply because it was the right thing to do. The old man looked toward the western horizon. The last light of day slowly disappeared behind the distant hills. One by one, the first stars appeared above the valley. He smiled gently. "Tomorrow morning, if you still wish to walk, I'll take you beyond the old ferry to a quiet monastery hidden among the hills, where every sunrise begins with the sound of one ancient bell echoing across the valley."
The stars lingered above the valley long after the last glow of sunset had faded. The river reflected them one by one until it became difficult to tell where the sky ended and the water began. The traveler stood quietly beside the old ferry landing. The evening breeze had grown cooler. Somewhere behind him, the lantern in the mill window still glowed warmly. Across the river, the ancient bridge rested beneath the moonlight, calm and unchanged, just as it had for nearly 2,000 years. The old man adjusted his wool cloak. "It's getting late. The monastery rises early." The traveler smiled. "So should we." Together, they followed the narrow hillside path beyond the ferry. The moon was bright enough to guide their steps. Wildflowers rested peacefully beneath silver light. Crickets sang softly from the tall grass. The valley seemed to breathe more slowly after dark. Before sunrise, they reached the crest of a gentle hill. The eastern sky had only begun to brighten. A cool mist drifted lazily across the meadows below. There, resting among ancient oak trees, stood the monastery. It was built from pale stone that had weathered centuries of wind and rain. Its bell tower was modest. Its gardens were simple. No high walls surrounded it. Only orchards, fields, and quiet footpaths welcomed every visitor. "It has stood here for almost 900 years," the old man whispered, "and every sunrise, the same bell still rings." As though the monastery had heard his words, the bell sounded. One gentle note, then another. Its deep voice rolled slowly across the hills, down into the valley, across the river, over the ancient bridge. The traveler closed his eyes. The sound was neither loud nor hurried. It simply filled the morning with calm. When the final note faded, even the birds seemed to wait a moment before beginning their cheerful songs. A monk wearing a plain brown robe stepped quietly through the monastery garden. He carried a small wooden watering can. Without looking toward the visitors, he gently watered rows of herbs growing beside the stone pathway. Rosemary, sage, thyme, lavender. Every movement was careful. Every plant received the same quiet attention. The traveler watched with admiration. "He hasn't even noticed us." The old man smiled. "Oh, he noticed. He simply believes finishing today's kindness comes before beginning a conversation." Soon the monk approached with a gentle smile. "Welcome. I hope the valley has treated you well." "It has," the traveler replied, "more kindly than I expected." The monk nodded. "The valley has always preferred kindness over greatness." Together, they walked through the monastery gardens. Fruit trees shaded narrow stone paths. A small fountain trickled peacefully at the center of the courtyard. Bees wandered among blooming flowers. Near one wall, several wooden benches overlooked the valley below. From there, the traveler could see everything they had visited. The ancient bridge stretching across the river, the little chapel beneath the oak tree, the Riverside mill, the ferry landing, even the distant village waking beneath the first light of morning. Everything was connected, like quiet chapters of one long story. The monk stopped beside a weathered stone bench. Someone had carved a simple sentence into its surface centuries earlier. "Leave every place a little better than you found it." The traveler read the words twice. He thought about the bridge builders, the journal keepers, the miller, the ferryman, the young girl replacing flowers in the chapel. None of them had become famous, yet each had quietly improved the valley, one ordinary day at a time. The old man looked toward the traveler with a gentle smile. "You came here searching for an old bridge." The traveler nodded. "I did. And what did you find?" The traveler looked across the peaceful valley. He saw the bridge once more, still carrying strangers, still standing without complaint, still connecting one side of the river to the other. "I thought history belonged to kings and battles," he said softly. "But now, I think, it belongs just as much to the people who built carefully, worked honestly, welcomed strangers, and quietly cared for things that would outlive them." The old man smiled. "I couldn't have said it myself." The morning sun slowly rose above the eastern hills. Its warm light touched the monastery first, then the orchards, then the village. Finally, the golden rays reached the ancient bridge. For one beautiful moment, the old stones glowed as brightly as they might have on the very first morning they were completed. Travelers began crossing once again. A baker carrying fresh bread, a shepherd leading his sheep, children laughing on their way to school. The bridge welcomed them all equally, just as it had always done,
just as it always would. And while kingdoms would continue to rise and fall, while borders would change, while generations came and went, the ancient bridge remained. Not because it sought greatness, but because long ago someone had built it well enough that strangers could cross safely long after the builder's own footsteps had faded into history. And perhaps that was the greatest legacy anyone could leave.